Welcome to the deep dive. Sometimes you walk past things, cultural things, maybe historical things, things you see all the time, but you don't really know what they mean. Or maybe you think you know. Today, we're doing a deep dive into a really old tradition, looking at two very visible things you find in Catholic churches: candles and statues. I mean, if you've ever been inside one or even just seen one in a movie, you know the feeling, right? That kind of hushed quiet, the big architecture, and always these physical objects, candles flickering, statues standing there. They definitely catch your eye. And I think for a lot of people, they raise the same question: what are they actually for?
Exactly. Yeah. And for people who aren't familiar with let's say the theological background, the visual impact is strong. It can easily lead to this big misunderstanding. You see someone lighting a candle or standing before a statue, and the immediate thought might be, oh, they're praying to that object, that they're, worshiping the wax or the wood. And that idea that it's some form of idol worship, well, that's really the core confusion we want to clear up today. Our mission really is to show why these things are there based on the sources. They're not meant to be worshiped themselves. They're more like spiritual aids, powerful ones. They're signs, symbols, tools, actually, to help focus your mind, focus your heart. And we need to get the terms right from the start. There's a huge difference between idolatry, which is absolutely forbidden, and devotion, which is the love and practice of faith that these things are meant to help.
Okay, got it. So let's unpack that. Maybe start with the candles. That flickering flame is pretty evocative, isn't it? It feels quite spiritual when you see someone light one of those little candles. What's happening there?
Well, the main idea is actually quite practical, but yeah, deeply spiritual too. It's about extended prayer. Think about it. You go to church, you pray, maybe you kneel for a while, but you can't stay there forever, right? You've got life outside. So lighting that candle, it's like leaving a little piece of your prayer behind. The flame keeps burning long after you've physically left the church.
Ah, okay. So it's like saying, keep this going for me, a sort of delegation.
Precisely. That's a good way to put it. It symbolizes that your intention, your prayer, whether it was for help or maybe saying thank you or just being present with God, it continues. The candle becomes a sort of a quiet witness, keeps your faith present, but there's more to it than just, duration. Symbolically, it's huge. The candle fundamentally points to Christ, Jesus as the light of the world. Our sources mention John 8:12 specifically. I am the light of the world. You know the verse. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life.
Wow. That's a massive idea, packed in such a small, fragile thing. Just lighting that wick is like affirming this huge theological point.
It really is. That little light becomes a tangible expression of faith, of hope, of wanting to stay connected, present before God. And if you look at why people light them, the intentions are usually quite specific. Maybe praying for someone going through surgery, or expressing gratitude for something good that happened, or very often actually remembering a loved one who has passed away, lighting a candle to kind of keep their memory bright near the altar.
And this is where it gets really layered.
Right.
Because this small personal act, it connects to the bigger church rituals, doesn't it? I'm just worried it ties back to the sacraments.
Yes, absolutely. It's all connected. Think about baptism. Every Catholic receives a small lit candle at their baptism. It represents the light of Christ they're supposed to carry out into the world. It's a foundational symbol. And then if you follow the church year, the biggest expression of this light is the Paschal candle, this huge candle lit at Easter Vigil. It represents Christ resurrected, conquering darkness and death. So in a way, every little vigil candle lit throughout the year kind of draws its meaning and power from that one great light.
Okay, so lighting one candle isn't just this isolated thing you do. It plugs you back into your own baptism, into Easter, into the whole idea of Christ's presence. That adds, a lot of weight to just lighting a candle. All right, let's shift gears a bit. We've talked about light, which is sort of abstract, always changing. Now, what about the solid things? The statues. This seems to be where the confusion about worship really heats up. How do we explain what they're for?
Yeah, this is crucial. We have to be really clear. Catholics do not worship statues, period. Worship is for God alone, full stop. The function of statues is more about teaching and meditation. Think of them like any religious art, really. You might look at a statue of, say, St. Peter. You're not worshiping the stone or the plaster. You're remembering Peter, his faith, maybe his weaknesses too, his role, and maybe you ask him to pray for you to help you be more faithful.
I remember seeing an analogy in the source material comparing them to family photos. That felt like a really helpful way to think about it. Makes it less strange somehow.
Oh, it's the best analogy, I think. totally grounds it. Imagine you have a photo of, I don't know, your parents on your desk. You don't worship the photo, right?
Of course not.
Right. You look at it and it reminds you of them, their love, maybe advice they gave you. It keeps that connection alive in your mind. It's the same principle with the statue of, say, Mary. Believers aren't worshiping the object. They're using that image to connect with Mary herself, to think about her faith, her role in Jesus's life. The statue helps anchor that spiritual relationship. It makes the saint or holy figure feel more present, especially during prayer when, let's be honest, your mind can wander. They're visual cues, reminders, aids for focus.
That makes sense for focus. But okay, let me push back a little, plain devil's advocate based on the common criticism. The Bible says pretty clearly, you shall not make for yourself an idol, right? How does the church square that command with, well, filling buildings with statues? This seems like a direct contradiction to some.
Right, and that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? That's where you really have to dig into the nuance. The commandment is specifically against idolatry. It's about worshiping something that isn't God. Historically, the big sin was making images of false gods, or, crucially, treating an image as if it were God, or contained God's power in itself. That's the line. But, and this is the real aha moment from the sources, the Bible itself shows that sacred images aren't forbidden altogether. Sometimes they're even commanded by God, but for the right purpose, devotion to Him. The key example is in Exodus, chapter 25. God gives Moses incredibly detailed instructions for building the Ark of the Covenant. And what does God tell him to put on top of the lid? The mercy seat.
Cherubim, right? Angels.
Exactly. 2 sculpted figures of cherubim made of gold. Right there, in the holiest place, God commands the creation of sacred art, physical representations.
Huh. Okay, so God himself ordered statues to be made for a sacred space.
Precisely. That's the theological foundation. It shows that images aren't inherently bad or forbidden. What's forbidden is worshiping them or making them rivals to God. Those cherubim weren't worshipped. They were there, at God's command, to remind the Israelites of God's glory, His presence, His majesty. They pointed towards God.
Okay, that definitely reframes it. It's not about no images ever. It's about don't worship images instead of God.
Yep.
The difference between an aid that directs you to God and an idol that you treat as God.
Yes, think of it like using a map. The map helps you get to your destination, right?
Right.
But you don't worship the map itself. You're grateful for it, it's useful, but the goal is the place it leads you to. The statue is like the map. It's a visual aid. It helps you focus your prayer, remember the saints, connect with the divine. But the worship, the destination, is always God alone.
Right. Okay. Let's bring the candle and the statue back together then. We've got the flickering flame and the solid figure, very different forms. But it sounds like their spiritual job is basically the same.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, they share the same goal: to help direct your mind, your heart towards God, towards the divine. They act as tangible anchors. I mean, faith can be very abstract, right? It's about belief, ideas. These physical objects make it feel a bit more present, grounded. They definitely contribute to that special atmosphere you mentioned earlier. They strengthen devotion, remind people of holiness, of the saints, of Christ's story. They help make the space feel sacred. They're not just passive decorations. They're actively part of creating an environment for faith.
So for you listening, what does this all boil down to? It really seems to be about understanding the function over just reacting to the form. And there's that key metaphor that sums it up.
Yeah, they are tools for prayer. Simple as that. Never the objects of worship themselves. If you approach a candle or a statue intending to use it to focus your mind on God, on Christ as the light, on a saint's example, then it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. The danger, the line into idolatry, is only crossed if that focus shifts. Yes. If someone starts treating the object itself as having power or directing their worship to the statue or the flame instead of through it to God, that's the critical no-go area.
And just to make sure everyone walks away clear on the concepts, let's quickly recap those key terms we mentioned earlier.
Good idea. So, idolatry. Worshipping something that isn't God, that's what Catholics actively avoid. Then you have the symbol, like the candle flame representing Christ's light. There's the intention, the specific purpose behind your prayer, the reason you lit the candle, for example. And finally, devotion, that deep love and practice of faith. These candles and statues, they exist to nurture and support that devotion.
That distinction between a tool for prayer and an object of worship, that seems to be the absolute key takeaway here. It changes how you see these things entirely.
It really does. And maybe, just to leave you with something to think about, consider this. In our spiritual lives, which are often so internal, so abstract, What's the real power of having something physical, something tangible? Think about how these things, a statue, a steady flame, can serve as constant physical reminders. They anchor remembrance, they anchor intention. And those two things, remembrance and intention, are pretty vital for keeping faith alive and strong over time, aren't they? They provide focus points in a world that's always pulling your attention away.